Okay, welcome. I think we are coming to the end of what has been a really very important moment in the lifetime of the center and the university. We were privileged to see an artist work from the blank canvas to this majestic mural that is at the back of us. It has been a really very important moment filled with a lot of creativity, a lot of work, and the demonstration of the relationship that artists seek to manifest between themselves and the community. It is for me, and I'd really like to use this opportunity to say it has been such a wonderful experience and pleasure to have met and worked with Eduardo Choco on this project. It has taught me a lot about myself as an artist. It has taught me a lot about what it is we are endeavoring to do as artists in Canada. Thank you very much. But my first question really has to do with trying to understand that moment in which we first met and began this project. What were some of his initial thoughts about
in this particular moment?
About this, as he entered this moment, in which this has now been a conclusion.
Si nos puedes compartir algunos de tus pensamientos al entrar en el momento, al iniciar todo el proyecto, ¿cuáles fueron algunos de tus pensamientos?
Bueno, yo pienso haber tenido antes alguna experiencia con relación a realizar, no diría yo mural, sino gigantografía, porque realmente esto no es un mural para el sentido de mural tradicional.
He said initially he had some thoughts, but they were just more or less very large thoughts because they were not particularly pertaining to a mural, because in essence this is not a mural.
Esto es como yo dije, una gigantografía, porque como yo conozco los murales, han sido fundamentalmente los murales realizados por los maravillosos pintores mexicanos como Orozco, Siqueiro.
He says that usually murals were done by very large scale, very large scale, and also by famous Mexican artists.
Pero he tenido experiencia de hacer este tipo de gigantografía en los últimos años. En Cuba las realizamos más y eran de un ambiente medio político. Nos reuníamos alrededor de 15, 20 artistas plásticos y realizábamos aire libre y con muchas personas.
Over the past few years, he's had the opportunity to work with large-scale paintings, and he would very often meet with 10 or 15 of his colleagues, 15 to 20 of his colleagues, and they would all do paintings more on a political scale with a political background or theme. And they would, at their own beat and during their own time, create their paintings.
Y se hacían con muchas personas y eran temas un poco más libres. Pero en este sentido, yo creo que es la primera experiencia que yo tengo de realizar un mural o una gigantografía yo solo, con un tema pensado por mí, con un tema que nos une a todos los caribeños, que tiene que ver con el corte de caña, nuestra religión, nuestro grito de libertad, diría yo.
He said that this is the first time that he has had the opportunity, in his experience, this is a first experience for him, to have had the opportunity to work on what would be a mural or something, a very large-scale painting on his own, with his own thoughts, and on a theme or a topic that unites us as a Caribbean people. For example, the plantations, religion, manifestations, us as a people. This is the first time in his work and his career and his experience having done something large scale.
Yo realmente tengo que decir que ha sido un privilegio que la universidad me invite a hacer en un tiempo récord esta creo que es una hazaña.
He
Yo
says that
estaba
he
muy
really,
nervioso y muy preocupado porque una cosa que uno empieza tiene que terminarla y terminarla profesionalmente bien.
he really has to take the opportunity to say thank you to the university for giving him the opportunity to come here to do something literally in record time and to have him do it to the best of his ability.
Pero bueno, tengo que decir que ustedes me han dado mucha energía positiva.
And he would also like to say that y'all and the students have given him a lot of positive energy.
A los estudiantes, la ayuda de este maestro
The
maravilloso.
students, your help as well.
Y realmente yo creo que al principio ellos se sentían más nerviosos que yo, con mucho más miedo que yo. Y eso fue lo que precisamente me dio a mí la fuerza.
He said at the beginning he was very, very worried. He was very nervous, very worried about everything, but that the energy he received from you all is what gave him the strength.
I would like now for us to explore the meanings that have emerged out of this work. And I would like to invite Armand to join in as well, to help us to contextualize a lot of what is being discussed and what is being represented, what the representations that are being sought in the work.
Okay.
En este momento él quiere entrar en una conversación sobre el significado de cada panel.
Sí, y la pregunta es esa.
Sí, el significado, la inspiración.
Primero, yo había dicho de que hay lazos históricos que unen a estos países, a nuestros dos países. Si lo extendemos, yo creo que hay lazos similares que unen a todo el Caribe.
He's saying that there are historical ties that bind our two nations, Cuba and Trinidad and Tobago. And if we extend it in a larger scale, there are these historical ties that also unite all our island Caribbean nations.
Y bueno, yo quise empezar por algo que nuestros antepasados, los hombres negros, indios, chinos, tuvieron el rigor de la esclavitud y empezaron la economía en el corte de caña, que es un trabajo riguroso, criminal.
He wanted to begin with the legacy of our ancestors from Africa, from India, from China, the workers that came here and were working in the cane fields and in a very brutal, violent regime that formed the basis of the economy.
Esto se repite también en Cuba.
This also happened in Cuba.
La diferencia es que en el año 59 triunfa un fenómeno social y político que se llama Revolución Cubana y que la caña, la fábrica de caña de azúcar es nuestro mayor fuente de exportación para tratar de buscar dinero para alimentar el país.
So, in 1959, the revolution triumphed, and in Cuba, there was economy based on sugar, on cane cutting, on the economy of sugar, and the country depended on its income from sugar, so that Cuban citizens could live.
Nosotros hemos sido una colonia que pertenecíamos a España, y España en esa época parecía ser el imperio del mundo, que yo pienso que no pasó después así, porque ustedes fueron colonias o son colonias de Inglaterra. Inglaterra tiene otra posibilidad económica en aquella época que supera a España en montones de situaciones. Pero es que además nosotros teníamos una fatalidad geográfica con relación a la riqueza de la tierra. Nosotros no tenemos oro, no tenemos asfalto, no tenemos petróleo. Y ustedes sí, yo país, nuestra isla es grande, pero es muy pobre.
Cuba started off as a colony of Spain, whereas Trinidad later was a colony of Britain. And Britain had a different type of economic power, imperial power in the world. Unfortunately, Cuba did not have the amount of wealth in its soil, such as oil, gold, as other countries have. For example, Trinidad has. So we had to count on depender en azúcar. Dice que no, como no había oro, no había petróleo, había que depender en azúcar. ¿No? So since Cuba didn't have the oil wealth, didn't have the gold, didn't have other natural resources, Cuba had to depend on the wealth of sugar.
Y yo pienso que después de triunfar la revolución, la caña, la fabricación del azúcar, que es nuestra principal riqueza, junto con el ron y el tabaco, también se utilizó un instrumento que nosotros llamamos la macha o el machete, que en épocas anteriores, de 59, se usó por los llamados cambises, libertadores, como instrumento de guerra. Eso fue un símbolo. Y que hoy en Cuba las instituciones culturales usan como premio el machete cuando tú alcanzas un premio importante de una figura intelectual importante.
Sí.
Eso es un símbolo.
He's saying that, and you can help me out with this. He's saying that in Cuba,
After the
triumph of the revolution, this history of, for example, that the economy based on sugar, the economy was also based on rum, on tobacco. After the Cuban Revolution, then the whole concept of the machete, okay, which is the big.
We call it the machete, no, in English. What we use to cut sugar cane.
Correct, to cut sugar cane. That was used always in liberation struggles in Cuba, even against the wars against Spain. There are anti-colonial wars in Spain from the 1860s. So that machete later, after the triumph of the Cuban Revolution, is raised to a symbol of freedom, a symbol of liberation, a symbol of honor. Cultural institutions, different types of institutions in Cuba, to their highest, sometimes give their highest award, the machete. ¿Y en cómo encaja eso? Vamos a hablar un poco más así.
Yo pongo el machete, que lo quería representar también aquí.
Pero el machete no está ahí.
No lo puse porque me parecía después me pareció un poco, lo habíamos puesto y lo quitamos.
Sí.
He said I wanted to represent some of that history, and then I asked him, look, the machete is not there. And then he said, well, at first it was there, but then I took it off. So now we're at the point, that's why we'd like to know.
Lo quité y lo sustituí por un rostro, porque pienso de que no quería utilizar simbología específica de los lugares, aunque también aquí se usó, pero aquí no hay el conocimiento que nosotros tenemos de eso, ni la simbología que representamos nosotros, porque los ambices lo usaron también. Por tanto, yo quería usar mejor rostros que dijeran que son latinos, que son caribeños, que son cubanos, que son trinitarios, que son americanos.
Yeah, he said one of the reasons why he took the machete off, because he felt that the machete was perhaps a little bit too specifically national to Cuba, although he is aware that in Trinidad they also used the machete. So he substituted the machete for faces, and these faces are representative of Cubans, Trinbagonians, Jamaicans. I mean, these are different faces from that take that representation
Of people of the Caribbean.
Y así más o menos yo pienso que se fue conformando esa primera parte de esta, perdón que yo repito otra vez, porque no sé el concepto de muro, yo lo quiero llamar a este gran pacto gigantografía. Yo pienso que pueden seguir llamando mural, pero mi conciencia siempre está en pensar que es una cinematografía, no un mural. Yo pienso que es un nuevo concepto.
He says that this is, he doesn't consider it per se exactly a mural in the sense that he prefers to consider it as the birth of a very large scale painting. The word is not specifically in English, I haven't heard that word in English, but it's kind of like a very gigantic, immense, large scale work of painting. And this is how he has conceived it. And it's, in fact, it's a birth. And I think, and if I may add, it's been a very intense and rapid birth, hasn't it? Pero digo, y si puedo agregar, ha sido un parto muy intenso y rápido. Yes, exactly.
Yo pienso de que podríamos estar hablando hasta mañana con relación a este primer panel, porque ese primer panel te da la fuerza de la integridad caribeña.
I think we could talk here for many hours about this first panel, but the truth is that panel has the strength, the force of Caribbean integration, and this is one thing that he's been looking to and has been inspired by.
Ahí murieron, sufrieron, lloraron y rieron muchos hombres, nuestros abuelos.
In the cane fields, many people cried, suffered, shouted, laughed. The sense of camaraderie, brotherhood, and sisterhood in the cane fields, in those places where our ancestors, our grandfathers, lived, worked.
Luego,
sí. Well, one of the things that drew the whole painting together was this, which is now the central panel. This is the piece that resolved itself before the others. It is as if he was drawn to that moment, this opportunity to express this spiritual center, what he's referring to as the question of the Caribbean integration. He went to that as the formative idea around which everything seems to have been developed. There is a ritual celebration that he's talking to me about, around which the representations here are developed. I wonder if you can talk a bit about that.
Okay. Aparentemente este panel del centro fue el primero en terminarse, ¿no? Y parece que es como el que conecta o enlaza toda la obra. Entonces él quisiera saber un poco más a fondo
pues más o menos sobre la costumbre.
Sobre la costumbre, ¿qué fue si el primer panel fue inspirado por ese sentido de integración caribeña?
Porque
el
panel,
panel
que este segundo panel se convirtió en lo más céntrico, ¿no? en el enfoque.
Y en lo que enlaza y en lo que vincula a los otros paneles. Entonces, si usted no puede decir qué es la inspiración, si también aparentemente hay ciertos aspectos espirituales, rituales.
Sí, yo tuve la gran suerte de que unas 2 semanas de venir para acá he empezado a trabajar con mucha fuerza en La Habana. Propuse hacer este mural, después me va a estar en el aire libre en cerámica.
Before coming to Trinidad, around 2 weeks ago, I've been working a lot with ceramics in Havana. And I came here thinking, well, since I'm going to work in an open air space, I was going to do something with ceramics. Entonces al final, ¿qué pasó que no fue cerámica?
No, esa es la propuesta que yo tengo y la dirección y parte del gobierno de este país acerca de esto. O sea, de llevar estas imágenes y esta fotografía a un espacio de 5 metros por 6 por 12 en cerámica.
So he also painted this with the objective, with the goal of that it will be transformed into even a larger scale mural ceramic mural
That's
of
what
how
they
many
did.
meters?
5 meters by 12.
5 meters by 12. So he had that, he had that idea in his mind.
Y yo en La Habana estaba haciendo, hice un plato que el tema era precisamente el centro de esta fotografía humana.
So he was working on a big dish in Havana before coming, that the subject of that work of art, of the dish that he was making, he has also transferred it to here, and he's also working it.
O sea que venía de La Habana con ese bichito del equilibrio, de la cosa mística, de una buena cosa.
So he came from Havana, bitten by this bug of that kind of mystical, spiritual thing that unites us all.
En La Habana, a mí me informa que venían a hacer ese mural y me dan más o menos el contenido de ese día que representaba ese mural. Por tanto, yo lo venía gestando, lo venía pensando, lo venía madurando y el centro ya yo lo tenía visualmente concebido.
So when they invited him to come to Trinidad and work on this piece, he already had an idea of what that central part would be. He had this idea already, and now he will tell us.
He was already becoming.
He was already becoming what?
He was already becoming part of it. He was already
Yes.
thinking about it.
He was already thinking about it. So the central panel had already worked on in his mind. There was already inspiration there.
Yo había conversado con una amiga estudiosa, maravillosa, se llama Natalia Bolívar. Y cuando ella enteró que yo venía aquí, me pasó el número de sus artículos. Y ahí confirmé más la relación mística, religiosa de los ancestros, de la santería, que en algunos casos tenemos cierta similitud entre Trinidad Tobago.
So before he came to Trinidad, a scholar gave him some articles, Natalia Bolívar gave him some articles about the subject of African religion, spiritual traditions, mystical traditions. And he was reading those articles, and based on that and inspired by that, he came here to work and put into painting something that has to do with that mystical spiritual tradition originating in Africa that also is present in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yo también creo que en una época dada, en Cuba, cada uno de nosotros tenemos detrás de la puerta una especie de amuleto para espantar los malos espíritus. Y hoy yo considero que toda la santería, la brujería, en fin, esto es parte de nuestra cultura.
He says that in olden times in Cuba, there always used to be some sort of type of amulet or some type of figure behind people's doors that would keep away the evil spirits. And he says that currently today, this sense of trying to ward off evil spirits, negative energies, is now
present.
is now presented in, for example, you can see that in such religions such as in Cuba, Santeria, which in Trinidad and Tobago would be Orisha traditions.
Yo un día aquí ya, así de soplayo, hablamos un poquito de eso en casa de Río, y empezó a nombrar algunos orichas santos de la religión de Uruguay, y él decía, hablaba de Mayá, de Changó, de Ochún, que son los mismos orichas santos que nosotros hablamos. Por tanto, yo siento que ahí hay también una similitud de
So he remembers the other day he was at a friend's house.
Mr. Crichlow.
Correct. And you were talking to him about some orishas such as Yamaya, Ochung, and these different orishas. And then that got him thinking how in Cuba also those orishas are present. And he realized the resilience and the universality of African traditions as you have them in Trinidad and Tobago, you also have them in Cuba. And if I may add, you would have them in different spaces of our Americas as they were brought over as that cultural, ideological legacy that we have in our Americas, en nuestras Américas.
Un día subimos a pequeña montaña aquí y me llevó a un santuario de la religión católica. Que allí estaban fundamentalmente gente más bien india, ¿no? Que también tienen influencia en este país. Y yo sentí que hay también una adoración con relación a otra religión que no es la santería. O sea que hay mucha persona aquí, mucho pueblo aquí que adoran diferentes momentos religiosos, que también lo siento y es en Cuba.
He's saying the other day, I imagine he's describing Mount St. Benedict,
Right,
right?
we took him up to Mount
So
St. Benedict.
he said he went the other day to Mount St. Benedict, and he realized that many of the people there were of Indian background, Indian ancestry, and that kind of made him think that there are many different types of religions and spiritual traditions here that are as diverse also as the ethnic makeup and the different types of peoples you have here in Trinidad. So he sees that also in Cuba happening, in the sense that in Cuba you also have this diversity of spiritual traditions and people from different parts of the world.
Luego cuando bajamos me mostró un arbusto muy parecido a la ceiba de nosotros y me dijo que allí al lado de la ceiba la gente pone sus atributos pensando que por tanto yo sentí que ya el centro de esta pieza estaba en ese equilibrio, estaba donde había que estar, porque me confirmó todo lo que yo traía en mi cabeza de las escrituras de los lugares.
So afterwards, they took me down the hill to a tree that
Banyan
resembled.
tree?
It was the silk cotton tree.
Oh, what's
A
that?
silk cotton tree.
Okay.
Which was very similar to
spiritual,
Zeba.
yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it reminded me of and I saw little artifacts that people would have left and little offerings that people would have left at the bottom of the tree. And it really took me back and reminded me of the similarity in Cuba that we have the La Ceiba tree. I think we all have that, no?
Yes.
And the people would leave offerings and whatnot at it. So it really struck me.
It confirmed that the world is in equilibrium.
It also confirmed.
To him.
Really.
The equilibrium.
Yes, exactly.
¿Vale? El equilibrio le confirmó, como que le presenció lo que usted ya tenía pensado. So it confirmed to him what he had already been thinking, what he had overcome, is that equilibrium of these cultures, of all these, you know, of how this center, of how we come to venerar ese equilibrio, ¿no? Nos centramos todos.
Sí, porque la gente de diferentes manifestaciones religiosas. Por tanto, yo no quería hacer con este mural, yo no quería hacer de una sola parte, sino que estamos todos, una cosa, que estamos todos y todos tenemos que reflejarlo, todos tenemos que, en fin, en definitiva, cada uno pensando en diferentes cosas, creen algo.
He says he didn't come here just to portray one specific topic, topic, something. He came here to talk more of a universality, of a conjunction of things, of ¿y qué más?
Of the equilibrium.
Of the equilibrium, yes.
One of the pieces, I remember him saying that this piece in particular, if you would observe, you can't really say whether or not it's a woman or a man. He said this piece also represents for him every person, regardless of your race or your religion.
Correct.
Or whatever.
Trabajamos con mucha energía y
Sí.
yo sé que después de ese día, aquí trabajamos que hasta el chofer me dejó botado.
Eso no lo puedo
sí,
decir.
sí.
He said that day we worked so intensely on these pieces that by the end at the end of the evening, even though chauffeur I think got me in the wrong place. But anyway, so he says that this wasn't supposed to be a man or a woman. You're saying too. But what's very interesting, if the middle piece is not supposed to be a man or a woman, si el panel central no es ni un hombre ni una mujer, ¿por qué parece ser mayormente mujeres o casi todas mujeres en el primer panel?
Casi todas mujeres, parece ser casi todas mujeres de lado. Cuando yo hice, casi no había mujeres.
I asked him, if in the middle panel it appears that it's what do you androgynous.
It's neither man nor woman.
It's not neither a man or a woman. So I said, but the first panel seems like it's mostly women. So why is this all mostly women? Here's androgynous. And then he said what?
This part here, well, it seemed like mostly men, so...
It seems like mostly men. The women
That's why he
this time.
because from the beginning he always spoke about... From the beginning he always spoke about the fact that he didn't want it to be exclusively men either.
Okay.
He also wanted to keep that in mind, that most times when people do paintings, they only do it,
Porque
and it looks like a man only.
aquí es una cosa que representa fundamentalmente el trabajo.
Okay.
¿No es? Y aquí un poco el grito de libertad.
Okay.
No estoy diciendo que vamos a poner a la mujer todo para que trabaje nada más y no es así.
He says the first panel, the theme is mostly work, labor. Okay, and this one is the cry of freedom, cry of liberation. But it doesn't mean that we're just going to put women to work. Yeah, we have to clarify that because we might get in trouble with our ladies. Right? Hay que clarificar eso porque nos vamos a meter problemas con las damas.
Por eso,
Piensa que no.
pero estoy diciendo que no hay nada injusto. Simplemente es un problema de composición y de apreciación, pero aquí no están los niños tan presentes.
Even though, for example, this is it's no bias, no gender bias meant or anything like that. It's just the fact that is an issue of composition. It's how he created it. But for example, there aren't any children here, but children are represented.
Evidentemente, yo siempre tengo a las mujeres aquí y aquí, porque no podría yo vivir sin la mujer no está. Las mujeres tienen que estar. Yo pienso que ustedes también lo piensan, porque es un problema de amor y como bien tú me dijiste hace un rato, que todo se logra si hay amor. Entonces, en este mural lo que yo quiero representar fundamentalmente es que el amor, y el amor está entre un hombre y un hombre, entre una mujer y una mujer, entre un hombre y una mujer, entre todos nosotros, que para eso nacimos y vivimos, para amarnos todos.
Okay, I always have women in my mind and in my heart, and because without women we would not be here. I have a great appreciation for women, and he thinks that all of us as well probably have a great appreciation for women. And as Armando was speaking with him before earlier on, Armando told him that everything is achieved with love, and he says that we need to love one another, and what we're doing here is an act of love, and we're loving one another. And
whether it be love of men and women, men and women, ¿y qué más? El amor en todas sus facetas y todos sus aspectos. Love in all its aspects and its manifestations.
Creo que es tan lindo hoy reunirnos aquí y hablar de todos esos problemas cuando del otro lado no la gente está muriendo. Yo creo que nosotros somos privilegiados.
We're very privileged and we're very fortunate that we can talk here such a beautiful conversation about these topics when out there in the world there are many people that are suffering and undergoing a lot of hardships. Well, one thing I would like to ask, if I may be so bold, is the fish. Si puedo preguntar una cosa un poco atrevidamente aquí, el pez es arriba de la cabeza. The fish on top of the head.
Eso forma parte de la religión yoruba. Y el pez es una especie de limbo que llaman ellos así. Un embote, pienso que es un rito que se hace en esa santería y se hace precisamente
Cuando se recibe santo.
No tiene que ser precisamente cuando se recibe santo, te lo pueden hacer sin tú tener santo.
Okay.
porque eso es para equilibrarse, para limpiarse, para despojarse de las malas energías.
Okay. So the fish reminds him it's symbolic of a Yoruba ritual.
That's correct.
Where it symbolizes, well, I asked
Bueno,
him,
por eso es
is
que
this
habrá gente
done when
mañana
you
que
receive
ocupa gente
Indonesia,
porque
when you initiate?
algunos
He
se
said,
van,
no,
pero
not
quieren
necessarily.
venir, por
It
ejemplo,
could be done
y quieren
simply
también.
to balance yourself, bring back, to renew yourself, to refresh yourself, to get rid of evil, negative energies. Entonces,
Y como yo pensé que eso es un símbolo también del equilibrio, debería de usarlo. Porque también cuando tú eres vegetariano, por ejemplo, la gente dice, no puedo comer carne, pero la gente come pescado. Pero otra gente dice, no, yo pienso que me puede hacer daño o estar enfermo, que no anda a comer. Fundamentalmente carne blanca. Por tanto, yo no soy religioso, pero pensando en todo eso, yo creo que el pescado es algo impresionante. Desde que yo llegué aquí, toda la comida que yo he comido ha sido pescado, de diferentes variaciones de ese pescado. Por tanto, el pescado parece ser que es una alimentación de equilibrio también.
apparently he sees also fish being a source of food that's also, that brings equilibrium to you and balances you in the sense that,
Well, in the sense that he mentioned, for example, that if you say you're a vegetarian, you would not particularly eat white meat or chicken, but I can eat fish.
Or beef.
Vegetarians would say, you know, I may not eat meat like chicken, but I can eat fish. And as such, he sees some vegetarians. So he says, as such, he sees the fish as a symbol of equilibrium as well, even in the way that we eat in us human beings. You know, it joins us together.
and may I ask another question about the red arrow towards the eye? La flecha roja hacia el ojo, ¿tiene algún significado? Does red arrow have
En
some
la
significance?
en la religión se usa una especie de puñal para liquidar el espíritu, el malo espíritu. Pero aquí yo la quise utilizar para el equilibrio humano, porque el rojo, según la religión yoruba, es la fuerza de Choco, de la guerra y también el amor. Por tanto, yo, como veo que ese color me da todo eso, lo importante para mí era señalarlo con la ubicación del ojo, porque el ojo es el que te ve cuando y para liquidar y para hacer una especie de tu guardaespaldas a los malos espíritus, a la mala
Sí,
energía.
poquito a poquito. The red arrow symbolizes traditionally in certain spiritual traditions, Yoruba spiritual traditions, where you have a sort of puñal would be like a knife, no, like a dagger, a dagger. As a dagger or knife that you use to kill, eliminate an evil, negative energy, evil spirit. So in this case, it's not necessarily used to kill or eliminate evil spirit, but more also to bring that equilibrium. The symbol, the color, the red color, signifies, it's associated with the deity of Chango. And Chango is symbolized also with war, but at the same time with love. And therefore, this is all part of the whole notion of the equilibrium, and especially the eye, of that eye that is looking everything
That is evil.
that happens in the world is evil and all that. So then you have this trying to set the equilibrium. The fish perhaps as purification, el pez como purificación también, ¿no? Yeah?
Y tranquilidad.
Y tranquilidad espiritual y mental. So the fish has that symbol purification, spiritual and mental calmness and serenity. About the third panel, el tercer panel un poquito, no sé si
Sí.
rapidito algo.
Maybe
Entonces el panel es un conjunto de todo lo anterior, ¿no? Es como lo habíamos dicho en en estos tiempos, fundamentalmente la juventud sale a la calle a manifestarse con mucha fuerza por falta de montones de cosas que todos conocemos, de trabajo, de amor, de libertad. Y están diferentes gente manifestándose en Barcelona, en fin, diferentes lugares del mundo. Chile, Uruguay. Yo fui a la universidad para ver dónde iban a poner el lugar. Y cuenta la cantidad de fuerza joven que hay allí. Un deseo de comerse al mundo.
Poquito a poquito.
Y por eso.
So then, what I thought about this, well, this is the cry for freedom, the shout for liberty. Especially, he thought about the youth today. We see youth today that are very unsatisfied, dissatisfied, job prospects, work, unemployment, lack of love, lack of certain opportunities. We see around the world how people wanting more freedom, more love, more better economy, all this stuff, and they're going out. And then he was the other day at University of West Indies, at the proposal site, and he saw, wow, this is so much young energy here, such youthful force here, and he was very impressed by the youthful force of the university. Esa fuerza juvenil que lo que usted vio, que se impresionó, que estaba ahí en la universidad. Entonces ya un poquito más de panel y hablamos. Eso fue la inspiración. That was the inspiration. You would say that was the main inspiration, seeing that youthful force here at the university.
Y cuando empezamos a hacer mural, ese panel, todos ellos, ahí, con un amor increíble, mancharon esa cosa que está en blanco. Yo te digo que las cosas siempre me impresionan a mí. Cada vez llegué a pintar, yo en mi estudio tengo 3 o 4 lienzos preparados. Y cuando llego casi con los ojos cerrados, lo primero que hago es manchar, que sea 2 o 3 pinceladas a ese paso blanco. Después que ya están blancos, después que están manchados, y se me reduce el tamaño.
So, he is saying he's very impressed with the students here,
Yes.
the youth here, how from the beginning on the blank canvas, they all got together and with much love, with a lot of love and a lot of energy. They just began staining it with the earth, with the Trinidadian earth, just began staining it, preparing the canvas in order to make that jump, that leap between the void and start the creation. And this is something that he does himself in Havana with his canvases in order to overcome that void, to overcome, in a way, a certain fear, right?
Yeah.
Where you see this blank, this void, and so you start kind of blemishing it a little bit, staining it a little bit in order to get you going, and then it reduces the size of the task ahead of you. The task doesn't seem so big or so impossible, no? It seems a little bit, now I'm adding a little bit to his interpretation. But, estoy agregando un poco lo que te digo, pero es como hacer esa cosa grande, esa cosa que te parece imposible, lo hace más palpable, lo hace más realizable a la vez que se reduce el tamaño a través de ese ritual que usted hace, ¿no? Cuando hace el experiencia.
Sí, estoy ya entusiasmo mucho por el trabajo. Sí, tengo miedo. Pero ese, te digo, ese espacio en blanco siempre me da temor. Mucho temor.
He says that always, when he
space,
confronts
the
the blank canvas, the white space is very frightening. It's very daunting, and this is a ritual that helps him. That helps him reduce and makes things.
Tengo que decir que estoy profundamente feliz por toda la ayuda que me han prestado aquí. Yo me voy, yo creo que primera vez de algún país que estuve tan poco tiempo pensando que hay muchos proyectos, muchas cosas que decir. Yo sé que voy a regresar. Me ha pasado una cosa que casi nunca me pasa en los países, que puedo pintar, que puedo hacer algo con relación a las artes plásticas. Yo casi nunca pinto cuando salgo de La Habana. No puedo pintar. Yo lo que quiero es conocer a la gente, cómo come, cómo camina, qué dice, no sé cuánto. Y después voy a La Habana, que digerí todo eso, y que puedo pintar. Y me pongo a pintar. Y muchas veces me salen muchas cosas interesantes de lo que yo viví en el país.
I have to say that I'm very happy and profoundly appreciative of all the help that I've received here at university, and one of the most striking things for me is that whenever I leave Havana, I don't ever paint, and for the first time I have had the opportunity to paint, because usually when I go out I have to work with sculptures and whatnot, but for the first time I've come to a country, and this has never happened to me before, I've come to a country and I've actually been able to paint.
When he goes abroad, he eats, he meets people, he sightsees, he gets to know the country, and then he comes back to Havana with that inspiration and paints. And he was saying this is the first time that he has been, that he has painted, and I think painted something very large. Sí, no solamente pintar por fuera la Habana, pero pintar tanto que era grandísimo. To paint something, but you painted something very large.
Tampoco tiempo.
So yeah, he's saying, well, I've painted for all the times I've never painted abroad. But anyway, he says that he's very impressed by that he's been able, and I guess, and this is perhaps a little bit of what I'm saying, maybe he feels at home here in Trinidad to be able to, have this creative process come out in such a scale. Le digo, tal vez usted se siente muy en casa aquí en Trinidad para poder efectuar una obra de esta manera así en un país extranjero, ¿no?
Sí, mi familia estaba así también nerviosa, ustedes saben que yo no acostumbro y que no puedo hacer, muchas veces no puedo hacer. Y ellos estaban muy nerviosos, pero ¿por qué lo aceptaste? Tienes que ver que tú no puedes, eso no es aquí.
My family was very nervous, and I was also nervous as well, and my family was telling me, no, how is it possible that you could do this on your own?
Don't accept it. What did you accept in between?
You can't do this.
¿Cómo se sintió usted con un público mirándolo usted mientras que usted pintaba?
Yo tengo cierta costumbre de que la gente de mi generación tenemos cierta costumbre de que nos estén mirando, pero cuando estamos haciendo gráfica, porque antes de yo tener estudios, yo trabajábamos todos por problemas que tú sabes, de escasez, de que no hay material, de que no teníamos lugar ni hacerlo, en un taller colectivo. Trabajan todo el mundo, entran turistas. Excuse me, boss, you have a text message. Y ahí todo el mundo te está mirando. Lo que yo no estaba acostumbrado, es cuando estoy dando al óleo, caballete. Ahí sí no me acostumbro. Pero bueno, esto era algo fuera de lo común. Y había que un poco cuidarse.
Usually when I work, I usually work in my studio, and I'm not used to having many people. When you're a person of imagination like himself, when you're an artist, you're used to working in your studio, and to have people come look at you, well, it's something
He was
that
a
you
little
have
bit
to
familiar
get
with.
used
He was
to.
saying that years ago he used to paint in because of sometimes of a lack of resources, lack of supplies, and you're an artist, you need supplies, you need materials, you need this. So sometimes he would work for this cooperative, an artist cooperative, where everyone in a very large space came and painted and shared materials and all that. So he does have that experience of painting in front of other people previously, but recently he has had his own studio, so it's been several years now that he's been working alone. So, at the end,
it's something
gustó o no
that
le
you have to
gustó?
get used to.
que están con tanta gente arriba de usted.
No, es un momento que no lo...
You just don't
It
know.
came to a point where he just could not acknowledge that, where he couldn't be acknowledging the people around him because or else he wouldn't be able to
Un momento que no lo sentía y cuando a veces lo sentía lo que hacía era bajaba y ya también me tocó la persona.
And then
Eso
when,
lo he ido haciendo muchas veces. Cuando me doy cuenta, bajo, me pongo ahí, también ahí también.
so, you want, okay, well he was saying that sometimes when he was very stressed out, that the fact that maybe, you know, felt a little bit uncomfortable, so many people looking at him, he said, well, I'm not going to battle this, I'm also going to join them. So he would stop, go back and join and start seeing also the work and seeing what's going on, taking the perspective of the audience. So, that was his technique. Esa era su técnica. No voy a combatir con ellos, lo voy
Sobre todo el amigo que...
Especially not my friend the photographer here.
Pero está en su trabajo y no puedo interrumpir.
Yeah, but that's his job. I cannot tell him not to do that, right? So.
Es otra experiencia, ya tuve otra experiencia. De hoy aquí, en estos días, con ustedes, todo el mundo mirando, todo el mundo disfrutando. Y una de las cosas que me bien es que también me dieron mucha energía, de que cada vez que todos estaban ahí, todos sentían que estaba haciendo algo con mucha seriedad, con mucho amor, con mucha alegría.
He said he counts this as another experience, and he's very, very happy about the positive energy that he received, looking at the people work with a lot of seriousness and a lot of dedication and a lot of love.
Those are very thoughtful last words for this interview. I know we will talk again at another time, but I think we could bring this part of it to an end. Eduardo Roca, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk about the work and the openness and the humility with which you have made yourself open to us and the questions about this work. Thank you again very much.
Gracias por esta oportunidad y por ser tan humilde para hablar con nosotros, charlar con nosotros pues sobre el proyecto y sobre tu experiencia aquí.
Sí, yo también tengo que darle las gracias a ustedes y fundamentalmente a tu familia, que la estuvimos molestando durante 2 o 3 días para darnos de comer y alimentarnos, ayudarnos de vez en cuando yo descansar mis párpados sentado en tu mesa.
I as well have to say thank you to you all, and thank you to you and your family, because of, you know, having to be with you and whatnot, but it also gave him the opportunity to rest and whatnot while he was at your home.
The hospitality he received there. Yes,
También enamorar con mucha fuerza a tus alumnos para que estuvieran conmigo aquí ayudando.
And also to charm and to how would you say it in English? You know, to make somebody fall in love with you. You know?
Yes,
to make somebody, to make your students fall in love with me, so they would help me. You know, with this, and to charm them and to, you know, to enamor them to this work and to this project.
Y un especial saludo al señor de la cámara que recogió y sigue recogiendo todos los pasitos que vamos dando y que es un estelar orador, no descansa, siempre tiene un tema que conversar, que discutir y que analizar. Yo creo que él, más que fotógrafo, puede ser profundamente un escritor, un literato.
He says that a special shout out goes to the photographer, because since we began he hasn't stopped, he's never rested. And apart from being a wonderful photographer, he thinks that he may also be a writer.
What's that?
apart from being a photographer, he thinks that you may also be a writer.
Writer, storyteller.
A writer or a storyteller.
Thank you.
Let me also thank Curtis Allen for preparing the services at really very short notice. Really good services on which we work and with everything else. Of course, it goes without saying the vibrant photography, but the very excellent job that you have done in trying to make our ideas clear and literate to us both. And without your mediation, because it was much more than translation, a lot of what went on here would have been impossible. So I must thank you again for that.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank
Qué
you.
bueno que lo haya dicho usted, porque no estaba tan cerca de mí.
Está hablando del traductor.
Yo le estaba diciendo todo
Y dándole las gracias al
el mundo,
traductor.
y yo no le había dicho nada, pero cuando se lo había dicho él, para que la referencia no viniera tan de cerca.
He also wanted to say thank you so much to the translator, to the interpreter, for doing this, for going beyond just being a simple interpreter, for really being, for making, well, you know, the best interpreters are the ones that unite and the ones that bring together and that link. And I think that Allah wasn't present all the time, but from hearing from what you said, to prime witnesses that in fact you did a great job of just beyond just being a translator and really bringing the ideas together, bringing the cultures together, and that is that's wonderful.
And finally, I must also thank you for joining at this last minute. You know, being not just pressed into this discussion, but you know, have to make it
Fíjate si
an event.
es una energía tan sabrosa que cuando me dijeron que íbamos a sentar aquí a hablar 2 horas, yo dije que era mucho tiempo, 20 minutos, pero yo creo que casi
Ya han pasado.
He said that the energy and the conversation is so positive and so delicious in such a way, you know, I mean, in the Spanish way, you know, like it's very enjoyable.
It's so wonderful.
Very
Exactly.
enjoyable, very joyful. That when they first told him it was going to be a 2-hour talk, he said, I don't have time for 2 hours. But only 20 minutes. But now apparently it's been more than 20 minutes.
El tiempo se hace corto cuando uno la pasa como Dios. Y eso es un privilegio que cada día tenemos que fortalecer. Te dije cuando yo llegué aquí, yo dije, ay, yo pienso que hay montones de cosas que no conozco de esta área y esto es muy cerca. Yo voy casi siempre a Europa, para arriba, a todos los países de arriba, pero por aquí yo no conozco nada. No creo que me pase a mí solo, me pasa a todos y de ambas partes.
He says that when we become, he says that you live like a god when your days are very short, and it's a great privilege that you have to be grateful for. And he said that one of the things that really impacted him was the fact that we're so close and he didn't know anything much about us. He would travel to
this
Europe.
part of the Caribbean.
Or this
He's
part of the
always
Caribbean,
traveling to Europe, to North America, to
exactly.
all that, and this is something that happens to a lot of people in the Caribbean. We don't know our own Caribbean. We know. We think about New York, we think about Toronto, we think about London, we think about this, but we don't really think about what are our Caribbean, you know. So le está diciendo que eso pasa muchas veces aquí también. La gente van a Toronto, la gente van a Londres, la gente va a Nueva York y no están viendo, no se conocen su propio Caribe, su propio patio, ¿verdad? Their own backyard.
Yo pienso que el ministro también se dio cuenta hoy. Y yo creo que le dijo que iba a fortalecer a que la gente nos visitara y que él ya tenía unos cuantos boletos que iba a donar. No sé si yo entendí mal, pero me pareció que dijo eso.
Esta mañana, ¿no? Sí.
Okay. The Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Minister of Foreign Affairs, as well as the ambassador.
Yeah, and the ambassador as well. We are very grateful and thankful to them for all the support given. And also they are very much interested in building further bonds and making sure that these contacts are further strengthened.
Yo voy a personalmente a monitorear eso.
Okay. I will
Porque yo quiero
personally
ver a
monitor
algunos,
this.
yo quiero seguirlo viendo ustedes.
I will personally monitor this because I want to continue seeing some of you all here.
Y los primeros
Or
cinco,
some of you in Cuba.
Exactly.
primeros
This is some of you all
los
in Cuba,
primeros
exactly.
5 boletos que él va a regalar, yo quiero que sea de ustedes.
And if the first 5, if the ministry is going to donate 5 air tickets, airline tickets, now he's on his pockets, that's on the camera.
Yes.
I would like for those people to be you.
Después lo que falte, como los 5 boletos no van a alcanzar para todos, les recomiendo que pidan un préstamo al banco y vayan a
He's saying, I know that perhaps 5 tickets is not enough for everyone, so my suggestion is go to the bank and take out a loan to come to Havana. But aquí dan préstamos para el carnaval. That shouldn't be a problem because they have loans here for carnival, so they can get loans and go to Cuba.
Qué bueno que tú dijiste lo del carnaval. Yo
It's very
pienso
good
que
that he mentioned
había,
the
yo
theme
cuando
of
llegué
carnival.
aquí me dijeron, ay, qué pena que no llegaste para el carnaval. El carnaval había pasado como 3 o 4 días antes de llegar. Pero después me puse a pensar sobre el carnaval, porque en Cuba se dan carnavales que han ido decreciendo. Sobre todo lo de Santiago de Cuba y fundamentalmente lo de La Habana. Y ya eso
Se ha perdido.
lo menos que te parece un carnaval. Bueno, un carnaval pero de desastre. Que también hay carnavales de desastre. Y eso es lo que no ha pasado. Pero es que eso es un vínculo con una población. Eso es un diálogo entre la gente. La gente me dijo aquí que cuando llegue el carnaval, que son 2 días, la gente se tira para la calle, se quitan todo,
Okay.
muestran.
Oye, un momentico, poquito que está
No,
diciendo
no,
todo.
sí.
No, pero en el mejor sentido de la palabra. Se lo quitan,
Okay.
pero se lo vuelven a poner.
Okay. He's saying it's a good thing that I mentioned Carnival because he realized that in Cuba there's also Carnival, although we have been losing a lot of our Carnival. Carnival in Santiago, Carnival in Havana throughout the years has been, in a way,
The quality
the
has been
quality
diminishing.
the quality has been going down a bit. And that he's heard here that in Trinidad, the carnival, you know, everybody just lets go of everything, and he says it's a type of a dialogue, a type of involving participation with the people.
And everyone goes out to the streets for 2 days.
Yes,
And
everyone goes out to the streets. Y entonces,
Porque yo vi todo eso. Yo vi, ahí también hay una similitud, ahí también hay algo que nos parecemos, hay algo que somos en común, hay algo que nos une con mucha fuerza, pero hay otras cosas que no la siento, que no la veo. Y yo digo, si hay 2 días de carnaval, a la gente le pasa eso. Hay que tratar de que el Estado ponga más fuerza con relación al desarrollo intelectual y cultural del país. No se convierta nada más en 2 días. Hay que pensar en los
Yeah, he's saying-
54 días.
well,
no, sí.
you go ahead.
He's saying that with respect to Carnival, given the fact that people go out into the streets for 2 days and whatnot, that the state ought to invest more time into the intellectual and into the culture of Carnival, and that energy of Carnival ought to be translated for more than just 2 days, ought to be present for more than just 2 days, and that energy ought to be translated into the intellectual program as well.
Cultural, intellectual programs, academic programs, sponsored by the state. So that culture and that sense of carnival, it's only for just 2 days, for it to be present throughout
the entire
whole
year.
year as well.
Yo he insistido en algunos lugares que he estado aquí con relación a eso. que significa carnaval de Brasil. Y todo el mundo la
Aquí
canta,
también.
todo el mundo la canta, todo el mundo la canta. Pero el significado de la canción es tremendo. Porque el pobre trabaja todo el año, para tratar de buscar dinero y con ese dinero disfrazarse de rey, de no sé qué, de algo muy grande.
Es impresionante.
Porque él no puede ser, por lo menos se disfraza.
He's saying that Carnival, one thing of, for example, Carnival in Trinidad and Cuba, he realizes that there are a lot of, in the sense of Carnival, that our two countries are even more, they're more alike. We have more of those bonds because very similar sense of Carnival. He says the other countries as well have very strong carnivals, such as Brazil is a very wonderful, large-scale carnival where sometimes the poorest folks, they work the whole year throughout to save their money to create their creations. And then for those 2 days, they are the kings. They are the kings and queens. So this is something very impressive to him. To him, carnival is something that's very impressive too. Entonces
hay que hacer todo lo posible porque eso no sea solamente la felicidad de la gente jodida, de los pobres. La felicidad de los pobres también tiene que ir a un museo, tiene que ir a una buen cine, un ballet, eso es lo que te abre el corazón.
He's saying that the happiness of the poor people should not just be 2 days of carnival. He says the most humble and economically deprived people should also be able to see a good museum, a good work of art. And I think that this is why murals are important. Yo creo que por eso murales son importantes también, porque da ese acceso a la persona más humilde al arte, ¿no? Entonces, I think.
Yo voy a aprovechar y le pregunté a mi niño, ¿y dónde hay un museo donde se la juega la cultura de Trinidad Tobago? Quedaron medio así, porque me di cuenta que no fomentaba un museo, recoge lo que la gente hace.
He asked the minister.
This morning.
He asked the minister this morning, where is the museum where they collect the best works of average people or average Trinidadians? And the minister kind of hesitated. And he noticed that therefore here there wasn't really an investment in,
In art.
In making sure that, you know,
It is preserved,
there's preserved,
or
the
there are
works
some
of
sort
the
of
people are
recognition.
preserved, the works are really a true monumental museum of art of Trinidad and Tobago.
Y fortalecer la universidad de arte, porque esos son los pilotos, los pilares que dan esa posibilidad.
And
Tú
also,
sabes bien que en Cuba es un país que tiene problemas de índole material y económico fuerte, pero te puede ir a ver un ballet, que es un ballet impresionante, una danza. Hay un museo impresionante, hay talleres de diferentes gente.
he was saying that, and also most important is also the university, to invest in the university, the art programs, in the cultural programs, academic programs of the university, because they are the captains and the columns of the societies and our nations' art and culture and all that. So in Cuba, a country that lacks a lot of resources for the reasons that are known, and very lacks resources, but yet you could see a good ballet, you could see a good museum, you could see good works of art, you could see art in places and spaces, culture in all its manifestations. And he's saying that here this is something that our government here in Trinidad and Tobago needs to focus more on. That's right.
Well, very well observed.
Dice, son muy buenas observaciones, muy buenas observaciones.
Okay, thank you again.
Muchas gracias.
And thank you, Roger.